This is my mishmash. Hello fellow vapors, Vaping Newbie here, and we're going to be looking at a tank called a Fodi. We're going to be talking about a juice, and we're going to talk about some really exclusive coils. And this all came together quite accidentally. Let me have a vape. I saw the Fodi online on a shop, and I don't like to advertise for them because I try to support Canadian or American vendors. But this shop, and all I'll say is their name rhymes with Pasterek. They had this Fodi tank, which I thought, wow, it's a bit different. And when I was looking at the photos of it, I thought, it reminds me of a Jenny tank. Not quite like a Kraken in that regard, but the fact that the tank is on the bottom, the build deck is on the top, makes me think Jenny. And then something really weird happened. It came in. I ordered it. It took a while because it was back ordered, but when it finally came in, I was looking at it. I like the look of it. And then two absolutely fantastic people, Shai and Danielle, who Danielle owns the Vape Shop. He's a great guy. Had a baby, and their baby is Genevieve, or Jenny. So I thought, wow, what a nice way to put it together. Now, this is a longish video, and I apologize, but to me, it's well worth it because, hey, it's my video. But there is some personal slants to it for a reason. My vaping journey started at the Vape Shop here in Montreal. And Martin of the Vape Shop, I must have driven him bug shit because I was looking, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and he was being so kind and so patient. And eventually I bought my Ego Twist kit, and he created a monster. And all of a sudden now here I am, over 2 years past it. So Martin, everything that I have in vaping is because you led me down that straight and narrow originally. So merci mon ami, j'aime ça. Shai and Dan are big in advocacy in vaping up here in Canada. And as I mentioned, Danielle owns the Vape Shop, here in Montreal. Their Facebook page down below, as well as Definitive Coils, and you'll find out later. Mark, who makes these awesome coils. And the reason why I call it it's like a personal thing is because at my age, I'm not able to create what I call fancy coils. And because Mark makes them and because the Vape Shop sells them, I'm able to get them. And they do make a difference. So I had a lot of fun with that. But this is going to be about a couple of things. First up, the Fodi. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about the coil that's in the Fodi. And I'm going to actually do something I said I'd never do. And it's kind of cheating because I didn't make the coil, but I'm installing the coil on camera and just do a little tweaking to show you how easy it is for a guy that has a terrible shake and not great eyesight to build something like the Fodi. Okay? And that worked. The same coils worked in my drippers. Real easy. Okay? So that's it. I also got a cuboid. And why did I get a cuboid? Well, we'll see in a minute. Now, I love my Sigelia 150, but look what it does to the batteries. It just rips the crap out of the wrapping. Now, I know I can get those rewrapped, and or I can rewrap them myself. But if you've watched my videos, I'm telling you, I'm getting lazy. I like the idea that you have this compartment that slides the batteries in on the cuboid, so less likelihood of ripping them rather than pushing them in and popping them out, which sometimes catches. And that's what's happened to me. So that's why I got the cuboid, pure and simple. So without further ado, it is not about the cuboid. I just want to point out that, yeah, I am enjoying it. I use it quite a bit, mostly for my drippers. But it is about the Fodi, it's about a juice, and about a fantastic coil. So let's start with the Fodi. So the Fodi by HCigar comes in this little, it's sort of like a sleeve. All it is, there's actually nothing on it. You have a picture of the Fodi. Obviously, it says Fodi. And then, I don't know if you can pick this up. It's a little white dot. And the only thing I could think of is that it's stainless steel, so they put white. And then there's also a black model, and they put black, a black dot. But I haven't seen that, so that's completely unproven. Inside that, you have a regular cardboard box, again, with the word Fodi, a picture of it, the scratch and sniff sticker from HCigar, and the recycling information. So really nothing on the box. Inside, you have a little instruction card. It's very, very basic with the contents and so on and so forth. And then you have the Fodi, and there you go. We're going to take a look, obviously, a bit closer later on that. Inside, you do get a package with some cotton, and then on the flip side, they give you some pre-made coils, but we're probably not going to be using those. I'm pretty definite about that. Anyhow, you lift that up, and inside you do get a spare glass tank, and then this baggie full of goodies. And this has a bunch of O-rings. It has the insulators for the posts, which are made out of ceramic, so they're very fragile, so they're giving you some spares. A drip tip, we're going to discuss in a minute, and some extra tank rings. Now, you'll notice on the Fodi, the one that's installed is black, and it really is more for design, but also for some gripping. We'll talk about that a bit later. But they also give you a blue and a red one. So really, quite a bit in here. But the drip tip, it really becomes a crapshoot. You don't know when you're ordering it what color drip tip. You can ask for a certain color, but you may not get it. So I went out and bought, my own drip tips that'll match a bit better. So that's the packaging. Now we're going to go change a bit of angles and take a look at the Fodi. Okay, the Fodi tank. As I was mentioning before, it's a bit different in that the juice tank, or the juice part of the tank, is underneath here, and the build deck is on the tank, on the top rather. Of course, it's on the tank, which sort of gives it that Jenny look or Jenny feel to it. When you look at the bottom of the tank, it does have a brass-plated 510 connection. Now, the pin runs all the way up, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. You do have the HCigar logo. Let me see if I can get that. There it is. The HCigar logo on it. And then you have this top cap, which incorporates the mouthpiece that you're going to put the drip tip into. You pull that up, and there is your build deck. It can have a single or dual coil build. I'm going to be using it in a single coil build. I'll explain why in a moment. Also on the top, you have the flip side here, which if you remove this sort of cap, you see that there's another area to do a dual build. Now, one of the reasons why I don't want to do a dual build, one of the reasons, is that this cap right here, that's the juice hole, the juice fill hole. I don't want to mess around. It's just too small. But if I only do a single build, I have much bigger opening there, and then I simply pop that back on, and I'm off to the races. The airflow control, there are two openings on one side, one opening on the other. So if I put that here, that gives me airflow control there. It's shut off there and shut off on the other side. If I had a dual coil, I could certainly turn that around and have airflow there and airflow there. So it does have that multiple airflow if you want to go with a dual coil build. But as I mentioned, I'm only doing single coil. So that's what the exterior looks like. I do want to get to one thing about that center post. Okay, one of the things I find really ironic about this is it doesn't come with a little blue screwdriver. And in order to clean out the tank, you have to remove that center post. So you want to be real careful about this. You unscrew that. So this very long post comes out. And then everything now comes apart, including that insulator. So you really got to be careful. So it allows you to give it a good wash. Everything now comes apart in pieces. There's your build deck. Push out the bottom and your bottom. So you got all the pieces here. You got your build deck. You got your basically the bottom part with the post You have that gold or plated pin that's going to ride all the way up. You do have an insulator. You have a, I believe that's the negative post, and your glass cap. So that's how you're going to have to wash it out. So I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to wash it out, and then we're going to come back and take a look at it. Okay, now it's time to reassemble the puzzle. And so I'm taking the, I already put in that insulator pad that's for the positive post. So I'm going to just screw that onto the post and the tank, that bottom tank part. I want to make sure that that's snug. And then you have to place that long pin, let it come up through, and then you have to line up this positive post. And hopefully you're going to catch all of that, and then you gently, and I cannot stress that enough, you gently tighten all of this down. And if you go too hard, you will indeed snap that ceramic insulator. It is fragile. So, and there you go. Everything's put back together. Put back your top. Put that vape band. Have that place. And now you're ready to build on it. And I'm going to actually show you how easy it can be. Okay, I've loosened the two screws that are on the head. I'm going to remove this because, as I mentioned, I'm only doing a single coil build, but I'm going to need to access the legs off this coil. I'm using the definitive coil I spoke about. It is a fused Clapton, and just simply insert this, and I want to line it up so that it stays in line with the two holes that the wick is going to go in. Obviously it cannot touch metal, so I'm just going to lift that up a bit. I'm going to tighten it down. And I'm going to give it a test run. Now I'm doing this on a mod. Normally you wouldn't do that, but let's see how that works out. Okay, there's a hot spot in there, so I'm going to get it warm. Just pulse it. And I have these ceramic tweezers that I picked up. You want the coil to glow from inside to out. And there we go. Let that go down. And that is how a 56-year-old with a shake and not great eyesight gets a fused Clapton coil. Okay, so now what we want to do is get the wicking in, of course, and this is way too much wick. I'm going to trim this down because for this tank, excuse me, you only want it to get into the tank. Now I'm going to bring it down a bit further than that. That's centered, so I'm just going to gently feed this cotton into the juice holes, for lack of a better term. Okay, so I do have the wick going in to the tank. Again, not too far. This I'm going to actually play with, but for this video, I'm just doing it as I believe it should be done. And so the wick is in there. I'm using some juice that I'm trying for the first time from the Vape Shop. It's Tato Pum, which is apple pie. So I'm going to fill up the tank. And I'm just going to prime this up here a bit. We're going to let that sit for a bit, steep, and we'll be right back. Okay, one thing before we go pop and give it a whirl, I just want to point back, I put that cap back on. I dug out a different drip tip because I really didn't want the red one. Now we're going to give this a fire and see how it works. Well, it's registering at 70.78 ohms. So let's go up top and see about the flavor. Okay, back up top. You'll notice there is no wicking falling down, hanging down. So you just simply do this, get a bit of saturation, you're good to go. No big deal, no leaks, nothing. Here you have the airflow, which is open fully. Now on the flip side of that, you do have another airflow hole, which is very hard to see, but it's closed because I don't have a build there. So you can do a dual coil build, but I like the practicality, and I don't need a dual coil. This is registering at 0.78 ohms. I think that, for me, that's fine. And so I don't need the dual coil, and then I have the ease of filling it with the larger holes. The wicking, and I should have pointed this out, I'm sorry, the wicking is not tight in the coil. It doesn't move, okay? And around the holes where I fed that through, there's space. I made sure that there's space so that the juice can go up easily and it doesn't get clogged. Let me have a vape. Now, I did change out. I put in the Fodi, the drip tip that came with the Fodi. It's red. It's not the end of the world. And I do like this drip tip better than the drip tip I was using. The flavor, it makes a difference. It's a warmer vape. It's not a cloud tank by any stretch of imagination, but the flavor I'm getting on this juice is just amazing. And we're going to talk about the juice. We're going to first talk about the coil, and then I want to talk about the juice. So the Fodi tank, in my opinion, it's not an expensive tank. It's a winner. Please look around for them in Canada or the U.S. Push comes to shove, try Past Rec, and when they have it in stock. It took me a while to get it. It was back ordered. But really nice tank indeed. So let me get back. I want to talk about this coil a bit more. Okay. At my age, with the limited dexterity because I have a shape and the limited eyesight, I don't make any bones about it. I cannot make a fused clapped-in coil. And I see pictures of it in Facebook. I see pictures of it in vaping, what do you call them, blogs. And I always wanted to try it. And somebody's saying, yes, it does make a flavor taste, or taste difference. So what I did was found out that here in Montreal, the Vape Shop carries them. So I went in and I picked up 2 sets of fused clapped-in coils. This particular model was $13 for the 2 coils. And immediately put one into a velocity, and you know, that was simple in itself. You have to do some adjustments, but it's simple in itself. You saw me install the coil in the Fodi and saw how easy that was. So even with all the problems that I have, I was able to get what I like to call, and Mark seems to find it funny, Mark from Definitive Coils, fancy coil. Into this. And the second set that I got, I accidentally cut the coil while I was playing around with it. And you know what? It wasn't even installing it. I was just playing around with it, and I cut it. So that's in the garbage. So I had 1 coil. And knowing that the Fodi was coming in, I saved it for that. All that to say, thanks to Mark for making these coils that are really, really good. And in my opinion, very inexpensive for the amount of use you get out of them. And then thanks to Dan and the Vape Shop here in Montreal for carrying them, so it's easy for me to get them here in Montreal. I'm able to have that fancy coil, and it does make a flavor difference. So you're going to want to look them up. Again, Definitive Coils, made in Canada. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dan, for carrying them. Make sure your stock stays up. No pressure. So that's it. That's the tank. The coil makes the difference. And then, of course, it's the juice. Let's get to the juice. Okay, before I talk about juice, taste is subjective. What you like, I might not. What I like, you might not. As I mentioned in the outset, I started vaping at LaVape. The first juice I ever had was from the Vape Shop. And then I just sort of went out and found different juices and trying them around. And I was talking about an apple pie vape, and this Talto Pomme, French for apple pie. Chai sent me a message and said, hey, you got to try the Talto Pomme juice from the Vape Shop. So I thought, okay, I'll get some. Now, the only issue I had was that because I'm trying to vape low nicotine levels, they have 0 and then it jumps to 5. And I'm around 3, and on a dripper I'm around 1.5 milligrams of nicotine. So what I thought was, wait a minute, I'll just get a 5 and I'll get a 0 and I'll mix the two, which is what I did. Mix them in a bigger bottle and then put it back. So here's the bottle, and I love, that's a nice looking piece of apple pie, and then Talto Pomme. It's a basic juice bottle, and again, it's got, I just dropped the top, it's got that little nub on the top, and I'll get the top later. And this is a 50-50 juice, so it's 50% PG, 50% VG, so I am getting a bit more of a throat hit. And, but, Chai, you were right. This is a really, upside down, really nice juice. What I like about it is I am getting an apple taste to it, but it's not in your face apple. It's really, really subtle. Now, again, I'm used to using higher VG juices, so the throat hit is a lot less, but it's not for a 50-50 juice. It's not a massive throat hit whatsoever. Very nice indeed. So, Chai, you were right. This is a nice apple pie vape. Very subtle, and I like that. I don't like flavors that are too, and I've had issues with that in the past, but this juice certainly lived up to the hype that I got. So, nice job. So you're going to want to check out the vape. So, that's it. That's my mishmash video for today. I'm sorry it was so long, but I wanted to cover a few things and my personal journey in the last little while. And so I want to thank the Vape Shop for actually having everything that I needed. I want to thank Mark at Definitive Coils for building it. I want to thank whoever at HCigar for making this tank. I think it's a really good tank. And you know what? I'm liking the cuboid. So it's all in all a very positive step. Folks, I hope you got something out of this. You know I love having you over. Please stay healthy and happy vaping. Take care, folks.